Where's my intro video? No. Now we can start. Welcome to the Legit Football NFL podcast. Brian McFadden here, co-founder of Legit Football. We are live on YouTube and Facebook and multiple Twitter accounts. It is Monday, April 3rd, 2023, draft month. The NFL draft is happening this month. We had some technical difficulties to start, but that's not going to slow us down. Let's go ahead and get this party started. As always, my partner in crime, Kevin Phillip Fox. See? Now you get the walk-up music. We have Anthony back, properly running the sound behind the scenes. I do not have to do that as well as host. Kevin, you went live on TikTok for the first time today.
Yes, sir. It was very fun. We had our boy Armand over there. We appreciate you, Armand. He was keeping the chat live as always.
Oh, Armand was on TikTok too?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
We had a couple other friends over there. Very excited to see hopefully more people join and we can have a little community. Just keep building it. Thank you, Armand. Appreciate you.
Good. Nice to know he's doing well. He's going to be doing that before every show. Call it a little pregame, a little virtual tailgate.
I like it.
A little, he's going to bring some Bills Mafia to the virtual world over on TikTok. Break some tables, whatever it takes.
I love it.
We've got a fun main topic, something you've been wanting to do for a while now, Kevin. Before you introduce it, though, we've got a new regular. We had our regular Adrian coming in from Australia on Fridays. Why don't we make our man Jimmy Ray of NFL Stats a regular on Monday? And there he is.
Let's go. And he's dancing today.
From Indiana, baby.
He's more ready for the music.
Not from Australia, but yeah, I am. Better than last time.
I gotta say, Jimmy, I think I speak for all of us and say the Australian accent definitely trumps all of ours, not just yours, but we're happy to have you on the show. You were more prepared for the intro music this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was enjoying it. I was feeling
it that time.
Swag
today.
We need more music. Let's every 5-10 minutes, let's just crank out some music, get the vibes going. Yeah,
just randomly, we're gonna just dance parties. That's the direction we're going in, and I am okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, Anthony takes a hint.
We all need the lighting like Kevin has in his room. I think that's.
I got the purple neon light going.
Yeah,
he's got the mood going.
Always.
We've just got some boring football green screens. Obviously, we're going to do some legit headlines today. I'm only going to go to, I think, 2 because I want to get right into the main topic today. But I'm going to let you tease it, Kevin. What are we going to be talking about for the main topic?
Oh, Mr. Brian, I appreciate you letting me lead this one in because I've been waiting for a long time. One of the biggest reasons that I am as huge of an NFL fan as I am is my undying, passionate love for fantasy football. And today, Mr. Brian McFadden and Mr. Jimmy Ray and myself will be sharing our fantasy football flag plants for the upcoming season. We are so ahead of the curve. The draft hasn't even happened yet. There's going to be so much roster resetting, reshuffling, all that stuff. We think we know now, but guess what? Brian, myself, and Jimmy, we are planting our flags in 3 players each who we believe are being undervalued, who we are higher on than consensus.
We are first and foremost. Oh, that's
so scary.
Is that supposed to be scary? Shouldn't we be excited?
We need that in major key. We need that exact sound, but just like a little.
I like the idea of the sound, but like for a Halloween episode, maybe I don't know if that fits the flag planting.
Perfect for Halloween.
Unless Anthony's assuming that our flags are all going to just be horribly off. That's the crystal ball sound. Okay.
It is.
Still, that's Halloween-esque.
Yeah. Well, get some new sounds, man. We can't recycle the sounds.
Anthony, I like your sounds, man.
We are first and foremost an NFL show, but you cannot truly cover the NFL without touching on fantasy football. I think it's a reason why so many people have come to enjoy the NFL to the degree that they do, myself included. Kevin, you mentioned it. I know Jimmy is also a big fantasy player.
Absolutely.
So yes, that's what we're going to do for the main topic. But let's cover a couple quick legit headlines for today as we kick off draft season, SZN. First one, we've been talking a lot about the top 4 quarterbacks. So why don't we talk about the number 5, or on some lists, a number 4 or number 3 quarterback, and that is quarterback Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee. The hype is growing, guys. This was in Legit Football. Multiple NFL insiders indicating that Hooker is highly regarded in NFL circles. Albert Breer said that some teams like the former Tennessee quarterback more than Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. He also revealed that Hooker has, quote, absolutely crushed his meetings with interested teams. Jordan Schultz, an NFL scout, told him that Hooker is unlikely to get out of the first round due to his, quote, big arm, accuracy, and intelligence. One more guy, Bruce Feldman from The Athletic, quote, wouldn't be shocked if Hooker gets picked higher than Levis. Kevin, I don't know what research you've done so far on Hendon Hooker. Started multiple years for Tennessee, did suffer an injury at the end of the season, but crazy stats and starting to move up a lot of people's draft boards.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker is a really interesting prospect. And believe it or not, I'm actually blessed enough to have seen him play with my own 2 eyes. I went to a University of Tennessee game in 2021. And yeah, Hendon Hooker is definitely a baller. I'm still between him and Levis as far as QB4 goes. I'm still a little torn because Levis has that howitzer, man. And like, that's such a gift. I know
so did Ryan Leaf.
You're going to be low on Levis. I can
so
feel
did Jamarcus Russell. Just having a howitzer does not automatically do anything for me personally.
Dude, I watched JP Lossman play when I was a wee lad, and I didn't know that wasn't normal. I thought all quarterbacks just sucked. So, and then I saw Tom Brady, and I was like, "What is this? What am I watching? What is this art that's happening?" So I hear what you're saying about athleticism, but so Hooker and Levis is going to be a really interesting conversation.
I actually didn't say anything about athleticism. I just meant I'm not so tied in on the rocket arm. I'm not even. Athleticism is honestly essential to modern NFL quarterback.
I agree.
But I'm more concerned with what's here, what's between the ears, processing time,
Hooker's sharp,
decision making, accuracy.
Definitely.
These are all things that I have personally. Now, I'm not a scout, and I don't watch the hours of film, but from what I'm understanding, from what I'm reading, I have my questions about Levis, and Hooker intrigues me. Jimmy, do you have you looked into these quarterbacks at all? Do you have an opinion on Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee in general, or specifically versus a Will Levis or an Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, I mean, compared to Will Levis, especially the value that you could get on him coming off of an ACL injury and getting him later in the first round and the second round. I mean, he's going to get that flyer pick, and I don't think that report's wrong at all when it says he could be picked in the first round because of how valuable QBs are. But yeah, I think he looks to be the better prospect compared to Will Levis, especially with that value that you have to take into account when you're drafting somebody.
But ceiling wise, right? Like we can't ignore Levis's ceiling. I'm not saying Hooker doesn't have a ceiling. I think they're both ceiling prospects. But ceiling
but there's also a floor consideration, and Levis's floor might be like a magic door that's just open.
Yes, that's actually, that can't be denied. But we've kind of been thinking that about a lot of prospects in recent years. And I mean, did Fields not look like one of the worst quarterbacks you've ever seen with your own 2 eyes as recent as last year? Fields
but he didn't look like that in college. The thing with Levis specifically is he got worse from 2021 to 2022. That thing in particular tends to bother me.
It is an interesting thing to track.
So he didn't have as much protection. He lost Wan'Dale Robinson from the year before, so he lost a big weapon. That can contribute to a degree, but I still feel if you're going to be a starter in the NFL, you should be able to overcome things in college. It's not like he was surrounded by complete lackeys. He wasn't playing like in South Dakota State. He was playing for the University of Kentucky.
Yeah.
So we've turned this more into a Levis discussion than a Hendon Hooker discussion.
Yeah, I think the real interesting part of this is how many QBs do we see go in the first round? Because you're looking at, so we have CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. It's pretty Anthony Richardson, obviously. And then we're looking at, it's likely Levis, and I think now you can probably say Hooker probably goes in the first 2. Based on what that guy reported. So then are there any names left?
Multiple guys reported. For a first round, no, I don't think so. You got like Tanner McKee out of Stanford. You have the guy out of UCLA. He's got 3 names. Dorian Thompson something.
Yeah.
DTR, I think that Dorian Thompson Robinson. I think Robinson might be it. But those aren't first round talents. Here's some interesting notes real quick with Hooker. He has met in some capacity already with the Texans, the Colts, the Titans, the Giants, the Bucks, the Commanders, and the Cowboys. There are multiple teams showing interest in Hooker. He completed nearly 70% of his passes for 3,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions.
That's crazy.
All year while playing in the SEC.
Sharp.
Against your Georgias and your Alabamas.
Yeah, definitely. And Armand seems to be planting his flag that he does not believe Hooker goes in the first round. Late day 2 feels a little disrespectful. I'm not gonna lie. Given the ascension we've seen,
that would be 3rd round.
Yeah, given the buildup we've seen, usually where there's smoke, there's fire with these kinds of situations. So I would tend to lean towards the tea leaves on this one and say Hooker maybe makes his way into the first round, early day 2 at the latest. I think personally.
Well, I'm starting to, at the very least, I'm paying attention to Hooker. Definitely. He was a name that was on my peripheral, right. And now he's firmly in like, okay, I need to read up on this guy more. I need to dig a little bit more and see what I can find out.
Yeah, those first round names are always the ones that are you see about 40 to 60 names thrown around in the first round conversation. Those are the ones that usually we have the most intel on, the most knowledge on. And then you're right, peripherally, we're kind of tracking those later round, those interesting, those flyers, and the players who had a lot of success in college. Naturally, it's hard not to know who they are just based on that. And then it's interesting to see because sometimes that success translates.
One name that's on everybody's radar is edge rusher Will Anderson Jr. of the University of Alabama. He is seen as better than Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson, who went 1 and 2 in the 2022 NFL Draft. This comes from The Athletic's Bruce Feldman, was told by a college coach that he's better than both of those players. He totaled 27.5 sacks, 50.5 tackles for loss over the past 2 seasons, ran the 40-yard dash in 4.60 seconds, and he is 6'3", 253 pounds. In 2022, Anderson won the Bronco Nagurski Trophy, which is the nation's best defender, the Chuck Bednarik Award, which is the nation's best defensive player, the Lombardi Award, the nation's best lineman, and the Lott Impact Trophy, which stands for integrity, maturity, performance, academic community, and tenacity. I have seen a lot of reports, mock drafts, draft analysts, Jimmy, that say that this guy is the most surefire bet in this draft. Thoughts on Will Anderson and maybe where he could end up?
Well, going off of that, I mean, the defense, he's number 1 defensive player in the draft right now. And when you draft a quarterback, you're drafting just for their ceiling, right? You want them to be the best possible. I mean, it's the most important position in football. Obviously, the edge rusher is close top 3, if not the second most important position. And it seems like most of the time these kind of positions they get it right. So I think Will Anderson will definitely be in that conversation with Aiden Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker for years to come. It'll be interesting to see where he goes, but I think for sure he'll be talked about a lot with those 2 names. But both of those guys did have a great rookie season too. You can't deny that.
Especially Hutchinson.
Yeah, absolutely.
To close out the season.
Absolutely.
I think it's always interesting comparing prospects from year to year because we do it so much in a vacuum because that draft class is that draft class. So I find the nature of this headline fascinating just because, you can get buried in your class. If you're a stud and you're the 4th best, people won't even know your name until the draft, But this dude is clearly the first, and it sounds like he might have been the first in last year's. Clearly, they're all different players, right? And Trayvon Walker, his ascension to the first overall pick last year had almost all to do with his just raw, like who he was, like what traits he had.
Oh, his athletic traits were off the charts.
So it's interesting to track that compared to, because it seems like Anderson might have both. I mean, Hutchinson, he seemed as surefire of a prospect as well. And the fit in Detroit was just too good. Like I was just really happy he ended up in Detroit. And now this guy Anderson this year, it'll be really interesting to see if do you guys think he'll go top 5 with all the quarterback stuff?
I don't think he makes it past top 5. If you look at, if he gets traded, so the Cardinals have 3. If the Cardinals keep that pick, they're taking Anderson. I mean, pretty much every mock that doesn't do a trade there puts Will Anderson with the Cardinals. You've got Jonathan Gannon, defensive head coach. I think that's be no shock that would be the first piece he'd want to build around. Yeah. But even if they do trade out, you got the quarterback's first 5. You got Seahawks at 5. Or quarterback's first 4, Seahawks at 5.
And their
Who's gonna-
need at edge is, they could
They definitely
they could use an edge.
they've done a lot on their defense. Edge is something they don't have a stud edge rusher. So
Yeah.
getting a guy like Will Anderson that you can just plug in on day one, I think absolutely makes a lot of sense. So I just don't see him stay. I don't see a scenario where he gets out of the top 5.
Yeah,
even
and
if
I don't
quarterbacks go 1 through 4.
Yeah, and I don't think the Cardinals even want to trade back too far. I know they want to get a good deal because everybody wants a quarterback, so you can get a pretty good deal with that. But they don't want to trade too far back when they can't get Will Anderson. I mean, that's kind of the conundrum here. I think that's why the Colts kind of have the upside. And at number 4 here, I guess I just got to bring the Colts into this. But yeah, those teams in the
we don't blame you.
No, it's fair.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals don't want to go that far back. I mean, the Panthers or the Bears kind of did. They moved back to 9, but the Cardinals might want to stay a little towards
I
the
wonder
top.
if they're willing to move back farther if they need help everywhere. We're just
Yeah,
assuming
that's
at this
true.
point that DeAndre Hopkins is gone, right?
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, they're not going to draft a quarterback, but Kyler Murray isn't going to be ready until October or something. But they lost so many other players. Byron Murphy, one of their best defensive backs, gone. J.J. Watt retired.
Goat.
Yeah,
No-
so
no
it's
way.
like there's not a spot on this team that they don't need an upgrade.
That's
like, even the-
personally why I would trade out, because you
Yeah,
gotta get
that's what I'm saying.
assets. Yeah,
Not just trade out, but trade out for a lot. Like
Yeah,
trade
I
out with
would-
one of these quarterback hungry teams, even if it's Raiders at 7,
yeah,
right? You know,
Yeah.
Seahawks, I don't think they'll trade up. Maybe if a quarterback falls to them, they'll do that, but I don't think Seattle will trade up. Titans, what do they have? 11? Yeah, so
I
there's
would-
another of these teams.
Titans are
that-
the team to watch. Titans and Raiders. I actually believe we reported on Legit Football last
did.
week.
Yep.
Titans and Raiders are the two teams, and we talked.
Yeah.
Adrian brought up Ryan Tannehill's dead cap post June 1st or his cap savings.
Mm-hmm.
Mamma mia, that's a bigger pie. 27 mil.
You know,
like
that makes it the Mario movie is coming out.
Oh,
is
can't
he in Italy right now? What's
I
happening?
can't wait.
It just made me think of the Mario movie, and I'm gonna pivot
That-
off that rather
that-
than Kevin's bad Italian.
I think what I just did is probably better than what Chris Pratt's gonna do in the movie.
You know
I'm
what?
just
You're not wrong. You're
throwing
not
that
wrong
out
there. But the reviews are great so
okay,
far.
I'm so
Apparently,
excited to
movies
see
are
it.
Chris
I'm
Pratt,
a
man,
huge,
come on.
huge Nintendo.
Yeah.
I'm holding a Donkey Kong toy. I'm a
Oh,
big
nice. Look
stress
at that.
guy. I always
How did you
hold
do that?
toys. I don't know why.
We love
He brought
Mario in this
sunglasses
house.
last time.
So
Yeah, right.
he's an actor. He's got his props.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but-
Exactly.
Anyways,
Guys,
as the Cardinals go in, I think the best case scenario would be to not move too far back. But yeah, if they get that big package, I mean, it's hard to say no when you have a team that's missing so many key pieces.
Gotta move
We'll
out
just
of
end
3.
on that. Yeah.
Just like Chicago had to move out of 1, I think Arizona has to move out of 3.
Yeah, great. Yeah, good for Chicago.
Bears
That was
moving out of
huge.
1,
Yeah.
Cardinals moving out of 3, and the Legit Football Podcast moving on to the fun main topic. We're going to
Let's
go ahead and jump into this.
go.
Let's have some fun,
Hit
guys.
the music.
There you go. So I prepped Anthony for how I was going to lead on that, and then I completely didn't do what I said I was going to do.
Anthony's
So,
in the background like every time.
We're
Like,
all freestyling.
He's
out
just
here.
that the director who just throws his clipboard up. That's Anthony in the background. But yes, this won't be the only fantasy episode we ever do, but it is the first fantasy episode we've done since we started the Legit Football NFL podcast.
So,
Thank you,
That's
Anthony.
great.
We had 30 minutes where we did fantasy stuff every week, so this isn't new to Legit Football, but it is new to this specific podcast. So here's how we're going to do it. Kevin, you already summarized it, but once again, the three of us are going to plant our flags for certain players in the upcoming fantasy season. What we did is I pulled a consensus ranking from Fantasy Pros. It's PPR, it's redraft. We can talk about dynasty implications. That's fine. We're not outlawing that, but the rankings that I use that I shared with you guys is redraft, just for the sake of simplicity. There's a lot of people out there who still don't play dynasty, which is a mistake.
so
You
fun.
guys should. You
Absolutely.
absolutely should. But that's for the point of this exercise. That's what we're going to use. So we're going to go around. We're each going to list, and not necessarily in this order. We'll each have a running back. We'll each have a wide receiver, and then we'll do a third, just other position. It can be quarterback, it can be tight end, it can be another running back, wide receiver. Call it wild card. But the idea is whoever we individually are higher on than the consensus. So you can say it's our guy, but like everybody does our guy. So we're planting our flag.
flag plants, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Kevin, you have been asking for this segment, so I have to give you the honors of going first. You can start with whatever position you want. I'm not
Let's
going to
go.
put any rules on it. You are going to set the pace. You're the pace car here, Kevin.
Let's go. Dude.
Plant your first
Vroom,
flag
vroom, baby.
for your fantasy player for 2023.
So I have a couple things I need to address there. He said I'm setting the pace. I've always likened myself to a locker room guy. You know, I've always likened
You're the
myself to
glue.
a culture guy. I'm the glue guy. You know what I'm saying? Armand is a glue guy. I just want to throw that out there. When it comes to listeners, when it comes to keeping the chat hot.
Quickly, I'm going to highlight Armand going to see Mario
Let's
this
go.
weekend. Armand's just bumping way up in the fan rankings. I'm pretty sure he's number one. Right?
You might be 101 in the.
We're gonna have a
in
Mario
the
segment next
legit
week or
football
something.
fan draft.
Oh, Jimmy, I that has to happen. We'll figure out a way to
Gold
we can
coin or
incorporate
something.
Let's
Mario
go.
into like a mock draft, and
I'm
Yeah.
all
make
about
happen.
it. Okay,
Make it happen.
so that's the first. Second thing, I want to thank Brian for his patience because his arm has been twisted so hard this whole since I
When are we
got
doing
on this
fantasy?
show.
Can we do fantasy? Let's do fantasy.
I love. I'm a freak. I'm a freak for fantasy football. Like I said, it was my in to being the NFL fan that I am. I was always. You never had to, tell me twice to watch a Bills game. But when I started doing fantasy, I think I was like 9. I never missed like a game or a season, or like if my guy was playing and it was. Look, I want to give a shout out to one final thing before I get into it. I want to give a shout out to my girlfriend because we go on a lot of dates. But if I got a player playing, then we're positioning ourselves so we can see the TV. That's just something that happens.
Nice.
Like,
She's a keeper.
I'm
She's a
sorry.
keeper.
She is a keeper if she knows that that's what's happening. You're not trying to be sneaky about it.
We judge same side boothers. Like, that's a thing we judge. But if the game's on and she's interested, she'll join me on the same side and we'll watch the game together.
awesome.
Those are the best dates.
That's love. Yeah.
Just kidding. They're all great. Anyways, okay. Digging my. I'm
Nice
just
Is she
save.
digging my-
listening? Is she
Just
Does
listening?
she watch the show? Yeah.
She does. Okay.
Anthony,
sorry.
edit that out.
Yeah, please.
It's
So
live.
anyways,
There's no editing.
We're screwed. So, anyways, guys, I wanted to start with one that I think is. I don't think it's going to be a hot take. I think you guys are probably going to agree with me on this. I hope at least. But I wanted to start with Fantasy Pros consensus RB26, and that is newly minted Carolina Panthers running back Miles Sanders. Thank you. Yes, I've always been in on the talent. I've always been in on the talent. I've never loved the opportunity in Philadelphia. Yes, they run the ball a lot, but Jalen Hurts takes a lot of those touchdowns. Kenny Gainwell takes a lot of those receptions, and Boston Scott takes a lot of those touchdowns. Now, that is just a lethal combo of vulturing that always took Miles Sanders from a low-end RB1 to a mid-tier, borderline low-end RB2. Now, I've always been in on the talent, and I drafted him in Dynasty a couple years ago, and I've been holding to the point where I offered him in trades for nobody. I offered Miles Sanders plus for Dameon Pierce last offseason because I was so terrified of Miles Sanders' value falling through the floor. That magic trapdoor that Brian talked about. Now, it didn't happen. Miles Sanders had a nice season last year, maybe his best in Philadelphia. And I want to say he was, an RB1 for much of the season. He kind of cooled down the stretch, which is just something that happens with Miles Sanders. But in Carolina, you have him and Chuba Hubbard and what?
Donta Foreman, I think, is going to come back there. But
On the Bears.
He's a Bear.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So we're good,
Oh, yeah,
Bri.
okay.
I
Yeah,
hear
that's
you.
right.
I think we're good. I think Miles Sanders is going to get the lion's share of the work in Carolina.
All right.
And I think Miles Sanders is going to be a low-end RB1 next year, given opportunity, given a team that finally gives him the proper 3-down usage, and hopefully some pass catching work. Hopefully he'll be catching passes from CJ Stroud. And what's a rookie quarterback's best friend? Throwing to the running backs and tight ends. I'm looking out for Miles Sanders to have a huge year in fantasy. How do you guys feel about that?
Listen, Kevin, I would hate to play fantasy with you because you just sniped me.
Let's
you
go.
just sniped me with
That's
the
Oh, you
first
had Sanders
pick.
also?
I had
sniped you?
Sanders.
And
I have
I'm
some
Baker
backup
Mayfield.
plans.
I'm waving the flag, and
No
I
way.
I want to hear
way. I
Jimmy's
feel
backup of
disrespected.
Sanders because I
feel
have
disrespected.
reservations, so I'm gonna counter this, but I want to hear Jimmy's
back me up,
endorsement
Jimmy.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Sanders, he's been a running back 2 through the last 4 seasons. I think running back 26 is kind of low, and I think Frank Reich is the head coach there in Carolina. They have a lot of the Eagles staff down there as well. I think they're more excited about Miles Sanders, even though it's a different team. I think it's kind of a very similar team than what he's seen in the past. He's gonna have a new quarterback. I mean, I think he's ready to go, and I'm excited to have him. But yeah, Kevin obviously sniped me there.
Let's go. Sorry, Doug.
It's fine. It's fine.
I am creating a banner. Boom. Okay.
Boom.
All right. So
Is that not there?
26, yes, I actually do think that's too low. So I'm not going to disagree that he should have a flag planted as somebody finishing higher, but I don't know how much higher. And I don't have great metrics to back this up. So I'm happy to be completely wrong on this, which is rare for me. I usually have the metrics. But it's more, if you've seen some comments from Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen when he was still there, they've said stuff in the past that they don't go out of their way to have a running back by committee. And yet that's what they've done while Sanders was there. They didn't trust him to have goal line carries in 2022, which is why he finished with one touchdown for the whole year, or 2021. They as soon as Kenneth Gainwell started really getting hot, they started giving him the ball more. What did they do in the Super Bowl? Kenneth Gainwell outgained and outcarried Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
So that tells me something, that there's something that, whether they don't view him as a true workhorse and maybe he's good, but he's good in short spurts. There's just something that I think if the Eagles drafted Bijan would get everything, right? So it's like, it's not that the Eagles are opposed to that, but they have never really given the keys to Miles Sanders in one of the run-friendliest offenses in the NFL. So it's more like that's a red flag, so that maybe he probably will be an RB2, so technically that's higher than 26 in the rankings, so it's not that I disagree with you, but I don't know how much higher. So I wouldn't plant my flag for Miles Sanders, but I can certainly see where you guys are coming from.
So, I'll just say this. I think you have very fair reservations, and I confessed to offering Miles Sanders plus for Dameon Pierce last offseason. So don't hear what I'm not saying. There are fears about the player.
I like
himself.
Dameon Pierce. He's not on my list,
too.
but yeah.
I
have him in a dynasty league. I drafted him. It was not a trade.
Same.
Super excited to see what he does. Quick note on that. D'Amico Ryan's already said he loves what he sees in Pierce, loves that running style, and they want to feed him. Oh,
I do love that, but I do also my Devin Singletary love. I do want him to get some work too, just for the record. I like Singletary. He's underrated. I'm going to tell you that much.
Oh yeah, I have Singletary in the same league. I have Pierce and Singletary.
You got your handcuff.
So I've got
a fantasy
the
guy.
Texans.
He's frustrating.
So last thing on Sanders, I just don't see anybody in Carolina who's going to take his thunder. I mean,
yeah,
Chuba Hubbard is just super. He's been so vanilla.
He's a guy to spell. He'll spell Sanders.
Change the pace.
He's not a guy to take away a ton of carries.
And sometimes flowers just need the right soil. If Sanders starts getting that rhythm, if he starts getting that extra work,
I believe that's our first gardening analogy. And
we're going. Hey, that's all we do, man. That's what we do.
We're organic in this
we're
show.
We're very versatile. This is all about planting. You guys are looking at flags. Right. I'm looking at planting.
Yes.
You're
trying to destroy the earth. Kevin's trying to fertilize it.
That's what I'm saying. With a little love for Miles Sanders, the seeds of love. Okay, you guys are.
I love that. Tears for Fears.
Thank you. Favorite band.
All right, let's go over to Jimmy. Why don't you plant your first flag? It can be an actual flag or like nature, like Kevin over here. Who are you planting your flag on for fantasy for 2023?
So this wide receiver here, he's going to come into a little different situation this upcoming year. He's ranked as the wide receiver 31, which is 7 spots lower than he's ever finished in, I believe, his 9 seasons in the NFL. And every season he gets 1,000 yards, right? And before Tom Brady, he would Mike Evans. Okay. In case you guys didn't catch all those hints there. Wide receiver
what's up
31.
With the 31? I saw that too. He was my runner-up for wide receivers. That's nuts.
How old is he? Is he at 30 yet?
I think he's almost at 30, if not.
I think he's either at 30 or about to be 30.
Listen, the age doesn't matter to me. His production's been through the roof every season he's been there. Yeah. He finished 13th with McCown in his first year in the NFL. The next year he finished 24th, which was his lowest ever with Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston's first year. So, I mean, I think he'll be at least a wide receiver too. I think wide receiver 31 is very low for him. I know he's going to have a new quarterback. I think it's going to be a little different.
New offensive coordinator,
Mayfield, new play caller. But I mean, that's the guy you plan your offense around. I think that's the guy that he's been so consistent throughout the years. It's hard to fight him, and I think he'll have a lot of good games still, regardless of who's playing quarterback.
I respect that.
One encounter. I don't agree with Evans specifically, but I do think we've seen a lot of players the first year back from an ACL don't produce in past numbers. Well, this will be one full year for Chris Godwin removed from that ACL. I see Godwin as a guy who could be a safety blanket for as more in that slot for a guy like whether it's Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, or if they end up getting a rookie. Evans would be a great red zone target, and if he scores 10 touchdowns, and he's going to be a wide receiver too.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm wondering is with if Godwin really has a resurgence, and that could take away from
just like the target share on there, and then how much targets will be even dealt out in the first place with because Jameis Winston and Tom Brady, they were chucking that ball.
Correct.
Yeah. Baker doesn't do that.
Baker chucks the ball and it ends in the other team's hands. Jameis did the same thing. I guess that's fair.
Now the Bucks outside of those two, what do they have? Gage?
I think Gage is on a different team.
Gage is not a Buck anymore.
They don't have Scotty Miller anymore because he went to someone
of.
else in the NFC South. So I don't know who their third is.
I just don't see anybody. I mean, wide receiver 31. I mean, he could have one of those games like he had in week 18 last year or 17 last year.
That's a mid-tier wide receiver 3. I do agree that ranking's too low for Evans, even if he's not a stud. How could he not finish at least at like wide receiver 24 or something?
Low end 2 feels more reasonable.
Chris Godwin's at 18. So they predict Chris Godwin to be a lot higher than
that's fair.
Mike Evans.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So
Brian's right. The ACL
closer.
First year back.
Second year.
That second year when you're it's a lot. It's a big bump. It's a big
quick notice. One of the reasons I keep getting offers for Wan'Dale Robinson in Dynasty, and I'm a guy who plans like 2 to 3 years out. I don't plan 6 years out in Dynasty.
I have Wan'Dale too.
And I'm like Wan'Dale, he could be great, but he's not going to be productive in 2023. He's just not. He's not going to come back. His ACL tear was at the end of the 2022 season.
Yeah.
By the time he comes back, he's not going to be explosive. 2024 will be the year, but that's too far out for me. I don't want to plan that far.
You could probably swing him for a second, right? I might try that.
I don't think I give up a second for him.
Yeah, I can't give up a
somebody in your league
second.
will.
I would give up a future second because then I'm not that asset is not a future asset.
Right.
But somebody for this year, I can't give up a second who I view as a starter level pick, depending on how high the second is, for a guy who's not going to start for me until 2024.
That's so interesting that to you, this is a philosophy discussion. Second rounders are starters already. Like I tend to be super like I tend to think about my draft picks as like I draft how the Bills draft. I think maybe you'll see the field this year, but it's more likely you'll see the field next year.
Well,
you know what I mean?
This is going to be a perfect segue into my pick because granted, I've only been doing Dynasty for less than 2 years now, but so my last year was my first rookie draft. I had in 2 Dynasty leagues.
Love a rookie
I
draft.
nailed multiple starters in multiple rounds of both of those. So I like to think that I have a good eye for later talent. This next guy, the guy it's not the first time I'm going to plant my flag for this guy. You probably won't take long to figure out who I'm going to say here.
I already know. RB27.
I drafted him with the RB27, correct. I drafted him with like 2.06 or 2.07. He was my first pick because I had traded my first rounder the year before. And I just knew, especially once he landed in Atlanta, that this guy was going to be a starter pretty early on for me, and he was. We're talking about Tyler Algier. You mentioned him. Consensus ranking has him as an RB3. He was PFF's number 1 graded rookie running back last year, 86.7. Who was not ahead of him? Kenneth Walker. Who was not ahead of him? Breece Hall. Tyler Algier, number 1 PFF graded rookie running back in 2022. Let's hear some other names, guys, of previous PFF rookie number 1 running backs, and you let me know if they did okay in year 2. How about Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, Ramondre Stevenson?
Yeah.
All of them were top 8 fantasy running backs in their second season after being crowned highest graded rookie. All of them. So we're already saying, based on that precedent, RB8 or better for Tyler Algier. This is assuming they don't draft Bijan. Please, Atlanta, do not draft Bijan.
Top 8 is it's rich. I think 14 to 16, but 27 is low.
That would still be drastically higher than 27. Like even
agree.
if he finishes his RB20, solidly as an RB2, that's a full 7 spots higher, and I think RB20 is too low. He was 6th among all running because he also didn't take over really until week 13. right? Cordero Patterson was the starting running back for most of the year. They played
true.
around with Caleb Huntley for a while, who was another rookie. Nice find for Atlanta.
Yeah.
From week 13 on, after Algier became the feature back for Atlanta, he was 6th among all running backs, not just rookies, in EPA, which is expected points added. It's an advanced metric to show you how much an individual player contributes to the success and the potential win for a team. 6th among all running backs from week 13 on. This is a guy who broke the rookie yardage record that Julio Jones used to hold for the Falcons by eclipsing that with almost 1,100 yards.
Nice.
This is a guy who's primed, and as long as they don't draft another running back, Algier is going to be the lead back there. Cordell Patterson is going to be 32. I love Cordell Patterson. I still have him in both my dynasty leagues. But this is the Tyler Algier show. 27 is criminally too low.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Honestly,
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, I like Algier. I think he's going to be fun to watch.
That was my. I want to emphasize, because Kevin, you were talking about that. The way I view draft picks, I'm confident in my ability to pick players that will be productive in later picks. I'd rather do that, because I don't want to waste a high pick on a guy who's hit or miss. So that's one of the reasons I traded for 101, because I don't think Bijan is hit or miss. I think he's as long as he doesn't get injured, he's going to be an RB1, right?
Yeah.
But anything after that, like, I'll trade back and get later picks because I'm confident. When I go around, I'll mention one of the other guys that I landed in the 4th round, who was a pretty solid contributor for me. So let's go around again, Kevin.
Yes.
Who's the next guy you want to plant a fantasy flag for?
So this is as much as this is a fantasy flag plant, that's a mouthful. This is also a plant flag for real life football. And I'm looking at wide receiver 25. Terry McLaurin.
I have him on my list. Yep.
He is such a stud, and he gets absolutely no love. Nobody talks about him in the top 10 receivers. He hasn't had those crazy, 1,600 yards, 18 touchdowns. He hasn't had those crazy seasons. And we all know that it's because of the incompetence at quarterback for the Commanders. And, sure, Heineke's been fine, and, he's had some fine moments, but Sam Howell's going into year 2, and any young quarterback needs their security blanket. And Terry McLaurin's the kind of receiver who's valuable enough to be a security blanket. He's not like, Sam Howell is not going to need to rely on a running back and tight end because he has Terry McLaurin. He's such a separator. He's got elite ability to catch the ball, elite route running. Terry McLaurin is the kind of wide receiver who just needs the right quarterback to get him the ball, and we'll see an ascension from him. I think Terry McLaurin could be a 1,412 guy if Sam Howell is a stud, which is a big if right now. And if he's not, then they need to get a new guy. They need to get, they need to get somebody who can get him the ball. But it's time that we start putting some respect on his name. And wide receiver 3 is just no bueno when it comes to Terry McLaurin. He's at least a mid 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the biggest part, like you said, like the quarterback position would leave me kind of tricky on that, because I think that makes a big deal.
That's
but
fair.
Obviously I picked Mike Evans too, and he has a lot of quarterback questions, and a lot of wide receivers have quarterback questions.
Right.
But McLaurin has that talent. I think he could move a few spots up for sure.
Definitely.
I've got a stat. I'm going to completely back this up. He was the first wide receiver I had. And I got multiple because I figured somebody would snipe one of mine. So Kevin has sniped multiple
I'm sniping out here.
of ours, Jimmy.
What are you doing? We can't play fantasy with him.
I know. Don't.
We're in a league with him, the Legit Football Fantasy League. So.
Dang it, he's in that.
You guys are screwed. No, I'm screwed. So, you guys are good too.
Terry McLaurin, I listed. I got some stats here. First of all, let's address the quarterback issue specifically. Take a guess of what his target share was in Week 18. Sam Howell's only start last year.
30%.
33.
Nice.
Whoa.
He got 1 out of every 3 targets.
That'll do.
You don't need to be a great quarterback if you're throwing him the ball.
That'll do.
1 out of every 3 passes. The volume alone. Here's his final line for last year. 77 catches, 1,191 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's despite playing with Carson Wentz for 6 weeks. And in those Carson Wentz weeks, he only had a 16.3% target share. Wentz just wasn't throwing him the ball, which is yet another
freaking Wentz.
Mark number 74 why Wentz is a bad quarterback is you've got Terry McLaurin on your team and you throw him the ball 16% of the time. So just that alone, that's literally twice. That's twice what Wentz was throwing to him. That alone, the volume. So, and worst case, Jacoby Brissett comes in. We've seen him be like Cooper had a great year with Jacoby Brissett throwing him. So I think he's smart. Brissett's a smart quarterback. He will get McLaurin the ball. So volume alone, 25 way too low. I could see him being a mid wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside if this team is playing from behind in a tough division and they're having to air the ball out a lot. And Sam Howell's throwing the ball 1 out of 3 times. He has that kind of upside. So I'm completely with you, Kevin. Big McLaurin.
Let's go. Awesome.
Nice.
Jimmy, you're up next. Plant another flag.
Hey, I'll plant another flag on a younger wide receiver. This guy's kind of already up there in the rankings. Okay, I think he's going to move up a few more spots and get that wide receiver 1 talent. He's getting a new quarterback. He played amazing last year. He was 7th in open and getting open, 7th in open rate percentage. He had a 26% target share. Chris Olave was a stud. Wide receiver 25 in points per game last year. He's ranked as the wide receiver 15 now. But I mean, you're getting my guy Derek Carr in there. And last season he only had 11 red zone opportunities and 4 touchdowns, and that's 40th. He was 40th in red zone targets, 11 of them.
Good.
I mean, and he was still a wide receiver 25. I think this guy's gonna take over the wide receiver 1 spot. I think a lot of people kind of have him up there. I just wanted to push him up there a little bit because I think he'll be the next big thing in the fantasy world.
So who are you bumping down? You can just pick one name.
Yeah,
Anybody above Olave.
That's the tough part as well.
I think he'll definitely bump DK.
I could see that.
Okay.
I could see that.
Yeah.
It's tough because I love Olave. I really do. And I thought 15 was fair. But I think I like that that's what this segment's all about, is planting your flag. So you're saying that however fair 15 might be, he's going to finish better than that.
I don't even have any stock on him. So I need to go trade for him right now before it's too late.
By the way,
people hear
I
this.
totally tried to trade for Terry McLaurin after looking up these stats. It didn't work. It didn't work.
He's a stud, and we're just waiting for the moment for him. The Terry McLaurin fan club is just waiting to erupt. We haven't had the chance.
It's quarterback play. He's been great, but only his rookie season has he not hit 1,000 yards, and he hit like 962 his rookie season. Yeah, so he's another Mike Evans. He's just like clockwork, 1,000 yards no matter who his quarterback is.
Yeah, he's a stud. And I love Olave too. To be clear, I think he's a stud. I just think it's always tricky because you're looking at. That's borderline wide receiver 1 already, so it's tricky to think about Olave as like a solidified bona fide 1. I think fringe 1 is fair, but I'm okay with your flag plant. I'm very much okay with
moving up a few spots. He's wide receiver 15, so he's not going to move up to wide receiver 1 immediately. He'll be
thinking
a few spots
between
here.
9 and 12 type.
Yeah, sure.
I could see
absolutely.
that.
I think that could happen
with Carr. That's a great point. The Carr thing is big because Carr, like him or hate him, he's been able to support top end fantasy talent. So I like where your head is at, Jimmy Ray. And Mr. McFadden, I believe we are due a second flag plant from you.
Correct.
We're ready.
I did running back Tyler Algiero to start. For wide receiver, I'm going to go with a guy who we have not seen play a full season since 2020.
Uh-oh.
One of those was because he was injured for most of the season. One of those was because he was suspended. I'm talking about Calvin Ridley.
Stud, I love it.
Currently ranked at wide receiver 42 in the Fantasy Pro consensus.
Disgusting.
42.
That's
wide
disgusting.
receiver 4. Let's remind everybody what Calvin Ridley did the last time he played a full season. 90 receptions, 1,374 yards, 9 touchdowns, wide receiver 5 in PPR. Finished the season.
Those are legit.
He's joining a pass-happy Jaguars offense under Doug Peterson with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. We saw what they did at the end of the year. And look, I like Zay Jones. He's actually a starter in one of my dynasty leagues, at least was last year. I like Christian Kirk. I thought he was a fantastic slot. Neither of these guys has the talent of Calvin Ridley. Ridley is still only 28 years old. We've seen his ceiling, and that offense is just tailor-made for him. And even if he doesn't become a wide receiver 1 off the bat, 42, I know he's been out, but this is recency bias. This is, we haven't seen him. It's not like he got injured and that's why he sat out and is he going to be the same? He's not a Michael Thomas, right? No. We haven't seen Michael Thomas because the dude literally cannot stay in the field. I think that there's no way he doesn't finish at bare minimum wide receiver 3, but probably at least in the wide receiver 2, and has the ability, honestly, Kevin, to finish as a wide receiver 1. 42 is insane.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you brought him up, because the Christian Kirk thing is interesting, because do they hurt each other's value, or do they each have somebody to draw some coverage to the other side of the field? It's a very interesting thing, because I think teams with 2 great wide receivers tend to support 2 great wide receivers. It's just something that happens. And I think Calvin Ridley is a great wide receiver. And I think Christian Kirk last year proved he's a great wide receiver. And you're right about Zay Jones. He's a very, very capable wide receiver 3 right now. So does that mean we're looking at a team that supports 2 wide receiver 2s, top 24 wide receivers, maybe top 36?
I have a feeling that between the two, because Kirk, as good as he is primarily out of the slot, right? Where Ridley can play all over the field. He is a true X.
Right.
I think that's the guy who benefits the most. You go with the guy with the most talent. Ridley, once he gets back into playing form and back into the swing of things, he's the guy that's going to dominate. It will open up things for Kirk, but as far as pure production, you're going to see more explosive plays just because of the nature of his game by Ridley than you would by Kirk. So I do think that Kirk is the bigger beneficiary. I don't think it knocks Kirk. That Ridley is the bigger beneficiary. I don't think it knocks Kirk down all that much. I just think this offense is going to have, they're going to be airing the ball out. We saw what they did last year to great success. Ended up coming back and beating the Chargers. Gave the Chiefs a run for their money. This is a team that can feed a lot of mouths.
I have a 2-pronged question for both of you. Redraft this season, Kirk or Ridley?
I'm going ceiling. I haven't looked at ADP, but I'm assuming both of these guys are not that high, and I'm pretty sure that Ridley's ADP is going to be much lower, right?
Jimmy?
So
if Ridley's is lower, I got to go Ridley. And I think regardless, I think I would pick Ridley.
And then Dynasty, same question.
Yeah, Ridley. Same. At only 28 years old, he's still got, even if he gives me 4 good years, I just think the ceiling's going to be higher than a Christian
It's fair.
type.
I'm torn. I can't answer. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
All right,
right
let's go around one more time. Like I said, no rules, whatever position. I think we were all supposed to have a running back and a wide receiver, but I don't really care.
Yes,
whoever you want to plant your flag. Hey, Phoenix is in the chat.
What's
He's always
up, Phoenix?
commenting.
How
What's
are you?
up, Phoenix?
Hey, another Bills fan over here. Let's go, Phoenix. Come on. How are you, man?
Always commenting on the YouTube videos. Nice to see him for the live show. All right, we're going to go around the horn one more time. Kevin, plant one more fantasy flag.
Absolutely. Now, this is a fantasy flag that I am very proud to plant, and I never thought I would say this. I've already eaten my crow on this take, so I'll just keep eating it. I don't mind. And the person who I would say is holding the plate of crow for me to eat is none other than our producer, Anthony Wayner. Mr. Quarterback Jared Goff is ranked quarterback 15.
Where are the sound effects? Is Anthony sleeping behind?
Anthony, you're sleeping at the wheel, man. I'm showing you so much love right now.
Jared Goff is being talked about. There you go.
I'm showering you and your boy with affection. Freaking Jared Goff at quarterback 15. That's disrespectful. That is absolutely disrespectful. This man was on a tear last season. He proved to be absolutely better than a bridge low tier replacement level quarterback last year. He is absolutely in or at the top of the Kirk Cousins can win with tier of quarterbacks. And he proved that last year. And quarterback 15 is disrespectful. I think he's going to be a low end QB1. I think he's going to be one of those, the people who are late round quarterback drafters. I think Goff is going to be a top target for those players. I personally, in recent years, have evolved my philosophy. I've won too many championships with Josh Allen as my fantasy quarterback to think that there's any reason not to try to go for one of those top 3 guys.
Depends on scoring settings, but certain
naturally
QB-friendly leagues, don't. If you get a stud, just lock it in.
Just lock it in, and so, but the late round quarterback philosophy, it has been the main
the
prevalent fantasy strategy, and Goff this season fits the bill in my opinion.
Jimmy, plant another fantasy flag.
All right, so I had Miles Sanders. I'm going to go with a tight end on this one. Pat Freiermuth,
Nice.
who's ranked as the tight end 8.
I thought about him. I
Push him
couldn't
up
move
a
him
little
up.
bit higher.
Maybe one spot I would push him up.
Yeah,
I want to hear it from you.
I think he has the chance to move up a few spots. I think he's gonna build that connection with Kenny Pickett. I think he only had a couple touchdowns last year. I think he could improve that. Tight end's kind of the tight end position is hard to come by. Regardless, I think there's a lot of people like Darren Waller. Dallas Goedert, George Kittle. I think a lot of those guys. They could miss time. They could have some bad games. They could fall a little bit. The tight end position could go all over the place. There's only a couple guarantees in the tight end.
Well, here I think here's kind of how I look at this.
Yeah.
Who would you draft Freiermuth over in redraft of the 7 tight ends that are ahead of Freiermuth right now? That was my problem because I'm with you on Freiermuth. I have him in one of my dynasty leagues.
Yeah.
Tight end premium. I got Freiermuth as my starter, and I am super excited to keep him there
stud.
for many
and
years.
Pickett loves him. That they have a good rapport.
But for this exercise, I couldn't move him up in front of any of the 7 tight ends. That's why I didn't put him down, but I considered him.
I could see myself picking him over Kyle Pitts maybe in redraft.
Okay. Maybe
I could
Pitts.
see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe.
Given the current state of that
Darren
quarterback.
Waller.
That was the one. I'm like, Waller maybe because
Giants.
Right, the
But
injuries.
he's gonna be their one though.
Could be good.
He will be their
I
one.
think that I'm projecting
could be really
ascendance
good.
from Waller. And Kittle, I'm locked in on. I think Kittle is. I thought 5 was low for Kittle. I'm surprised Kittle's not still top
especially
3.
when Purdy became the quarterback.
Yeah.
He just started blowing up.
Kittle is the reason I won a dynasty championship last year, and I traded for him. I had Dawson Knox, but I traded for George Kittle because I want that. I think you can never, with quarterback and tight end, dynasty is different. If you can get your guy, it doesn't matter what it costs, because quarterback and tight end, if you have one of those top 5, it's a positional advantage. It's a weekly positional advantage.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so I think it's worth it.
I have Mark Andrews in my other dynasty league. So Mark Andrews in one and Freiermuth in the other.
Mark Andrews has been so shoddy these last couple, especially this past
season. He still
season.
finished as like tight end 4. Though. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah,
he did, but
he had a bad year and still finished as tight end 4. That's how bad the tight end position.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it says more about the tight end position, but you're not wrong though. About Andrews is still Andrews. He's still one of the elite talents at the position in the league. But I like the Freiermuth take. Jimmy, I think your last 2 are both like pretty solidly, like they're already being ranked pretty high. Yeah. So planting your flag, you're projecting, like greatness from those 2 players.
Yeah. If Kenny Pickett can have a good year, I think he could push into the top 5. I think he could. It's obviously going to be tough because there's a lot of top end talent up there, but I think with a solid year, T.J. Hawkinson took the jump when he was traded, obviously, to Minnesota. That was awesome to see. Yeah. So if they can kind of keep leaning on Freiermuth, I think and I love saying his last name.
Oh, it's a great name.
It is a good last name.
It's just hilarious.
That might be why I picked him. Who knows?
There's so much room for Brian and I to if Calvin Ridley finishes as like wide receiver 39, Brian can take it right good. Right? And same with myself. Both my guys are in the 3 range, but you picked a
I was
looking at 1 and a tight end. I respect it.
A few of my options. It was it was a little lower, but I wanted to stick to the top because it was just a little more interesting for me. I don't know.
No, you're calling
it's
your
fun.
shot.
No, it's all about philosophy.
Yeah.
I tend to want to look at the really low values. Who can I get something out of? Wide receiver 42, Calvin Ridley. Where can I draft him? Yes.
Very nice. Yeah.
I think
Tyler Algier at 27. Come on, all day.
Insane.
And I'm gonna finish it out with. And then I want to do a speed round, Jimmy. I know you have to go soon, so we'll see what time we have. But I've got a bunch of names. But here is my final one. I have a number of candidates here, but this one is I feel pretty passionate about this guy in general. So let's go to the quarterback position, guys.
Here we go.
This guy finished top 9 or better in 3 of 5 regular season starts to end this season, including as high as 5th and no worse than 14th. 218 yards per game as a QB1, 14 total touchdowns in 6 games, 13 pass, 1 rush to only 3 interceptions. And he's currently at ECR 30.
Oh my God.
Who am I naming without looking at the rankings?
Quarterback 30. I don't even know.
I love this blind. I'm just gonna give you some metrics, and then you have to guess.
I know it's not Jimmy Garoppolo because you hate Jimmy Garoppolo.
It is not Jimmy Garoppolo,
but those sound like Garoppolo.
You're on the right team. Yes, Jimmy Ray, Brock Purdy.
Go.
Wow, there you go. Okay.
So
The,
Brock
the
Purdy,
minimal interceptions.
I think this has everything to do with the fact that he was injured, and Phoenix gets Danny Dimes. No, Dimes is higher than that. I want to say he's
Yeah.
like
Too many
QB
rushing
14.
touchdowns. Dimes
Yeah,
was
he's
the
14,
first
15.
name
I
I
almost
thought
picked-
about, and then you
Yeah.
said one rushing touchdown, and I
One
was
rushing
like, oh,
touchdown. Yeah,
I
but
almost
here's
picked
the thing.
Dimes too.
I've seen this. I've had discussions with people now that Purdy has the UCL surgery, and so he's going to miss time. You got Sam Darnold coming in, Trey Lance. Too many people are like, oh, well, he was a 7th round pick. He's done. This is Trey Lance's team again. Like, why? Shanahan doesn't think that. If you guys paid attention to what Shanahan and John Lynch said at the owners'
and
meeting,
George Kittle.
they literally said Purdy is our starter.
Yeah.
Like, he's injured. We hope he can get back soon. This will give Lance a chance to prove himself. Darnold's here. He's going to take first team reps. But everything they're telling me actually says, no, this guy, as a 7th round rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, ran the offense better from day one than Trey Lance has in 2 off seasons. It doesn't matter at that
fair.
point. Kyle Shanahan doesn't care if they spent 17 first round picks. And too many people don't seem to get that. So that's an NFL take, a Niners take. I feel very passionately about this. I traded away Jalen Hurts in Dynasty. I showed you, Kevin, I got a ton back.
Oh yeah.
I
That
got
was
the
a haul.
101, so I got Bijan. I've got, I think, like
But losing
five
hurts, though.
total draft picks. I got 201, and I got Purdy back as a replacement. I also
Nice.
didn't need him. I have Jordan Love, I have Geno Smith. I don't have to start Purdy.
Superflex.
Superflex.
Okay.
But I got Purdy back, and that really helped seal the deal because I do think that when he is back and healthy, he is the starter for this quarterback. So now you're talking about a starting quarterback for a quarterback-friendly offense where he finished as high as 5th during the season and finished 9 or better in 3 of 5, and he's QB 30. This was absolutely insane. So that I wanted to finish with that, and
I love
I'm
that.
absolutely happy
Hey.
to spend a 12th or 13th round pick on Purdy. Just put him on the
Definitely.
bench in case
Hey,
my QB gets injured.
Guess who I made a trade for yesterday in Dynasty?
Who?
Brock Purdy?
Mr. Brock Purdy,
Let's
baby.
go.
Nice.
I
What'd you
picked
spend?
him up
I
the
traded
day,
back from
he-
the 2nd to the 4th, and I got him, and I got Dalton Schultz, and I got a 2nd. I think, yeah, I
Hell
traded back
yeah.
a couple spots
That's a
Nice.
because I
great
have some good
trade.
wide receivers, so I didn't want Jackson. But
Yeah.
So, Jimmy, how
decided
much
for
more
it.
time do we have you for? And then Kevin, I'll hear your thoughts. So I'm gonna
Oh,
go through
yeah,
a
yeah.
lightning round if you guys have a few more
I'm
names.
We do
good
a
for a
lightning
lightning
round.
round.
Okay.
we're good. We got 2 minutes.
All right. Let's Kevin kick it off. What you got? Any other names on your list?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, like I mentioned before, George Kittle at 5 felt a little low for me. I was not super. I think George Kittle should be
Maybe
valued.
Pitts. Yeah, I think Pitts is that name is still it's enticing, but yeah, Kittle should be ahead of Pitts. I agree.
I think George Kittle should be valued as a top 3. They're looking at Aaron Jones as an RB2. He hasn't ever not been an RB1. It's interesting
Is it AJ?
because
Yeah.
of
New
AJ
quarterback,
Dillon.
Jordan Love.
New
What is that going to
quarterback.
look like?
I
Dylan
just-
is younger, although
I
Dylan
just-
was supposed to take over last year. It
They
didn't
might
happen, so.
think it's more of a running back 1A and 1B eventually. Like they
Yeah.
always say that though. So
They
I don't
also
believe
they
it yet.
restructured his contract and cut down his actually reduced his
Yeah,
pay. So
okay.
that's usually a sign that hey, we're kind of phasing you out here, buddy.
Yeah, I just love the talent. And then Pacheco's
Yeah.
RB29. Come on. I think that's
Really,
too low.
that I didn't see. Okay,
I think that's too low. It's a
Jimmy,
couple of them.
lightning
I-
round.
Yeah, I'll do a couple. But Sean Robinson, does that count? Running back 53. I think he'll be higher than that.
No.
He's
Oh.
running
He's
back
also not
53.
drafted yet.
That can't be
Yeah,
accurate.
Yeah,
on
why
that
they-
list.
that's
On
silly.
that list.
Oh, that is weird. Maybe they're not really looking into rookies. I've seen lists where
Yeah.
he's like RB8 already,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, that sounds.
You got to put
about
him at an
right.
RB1 100%.
He's on the list, running back 50. His highest spot is 4. His lowest spot is 48. So I don't know what's happening there. I think
So it's a
just a lot of
consensus. So
different
that means
minds
people are
going
just
in.
not. Different minds.
A lot
just
of
some people
different
just not
minds,
including him.
but
yeah,
I mean, I think anybody that's going to draft him is going to. I mean, he'll have a role. He'll be a
Definitely.
Brees Hall kind of guy.
he's RB1 unless he gets injured. I don't care where he goes.
Am I
Yeah.
naming more than one? I guess I'll pick
Yeah,
Derek
lightning.
Carr.
Whoever
he's
I've got like
quarterback
I got
21.
4 or 5. I'm gonna
what's
Yeah,
shout
Derek
out. So.
Carr, quarterback 21. I double downing on the Saints. I don't have my full flag in him because I mean quarterbacks are so wishy washy, but I think him and Chris Olave could be good. Rashad White, he was right next to Miles Sanders and Tyler Algier. I think he could provide some
They
upside.
just came
especially
out
with his-
saying White is going to be the lead back and
There
like
you
a
go.
3-down back.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was just
yeah.
came out.
Kevin
yesterday.
said that, right? Kevin
Oh,
just
yeah.
reported that today
That's
on
right.
TikTok.
Also,
My guy.
Phoenix throwing us a fun one here. That's
Alan
interesting.
Lazard, I got him in a trade too. Hopefully it works out.
Alan Lazard is interesting.
Hopefully Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets.
Is he wide receiver
Garrett
too?
Wilson is going to be the Devontae
Yeah,
Adams to
and they have
Rodgers,
McCole
though.
Hardman too. It's
Right.
interesting.
But Rodgers has supported multiple stud wide receivers in the past.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's
But
old
not to
now,
the.
but-
It's always been Adams, and then supporting is not the. I don't know what Lazard's ranking is,
But think about it back in like the Greg Jennings days, like before Adams even ascended. It was Jordy Nelson, it was Greg Jennings, it is old.
Yeah.
These
You
are
think
old
about-
takes.
Greg
least for
Jennings at
this
his
year,
height
he
is
could
a
be
lot
comfortable
better
with
than
him.
Alan Lazard at his height, though. It's
fair.
a talent thing.
Yeah,
Lazard
I
is a
agree.
very capable
Roger-
wide receiver too, but
At least for this year, Rodgers could go comfortable. He could go. I mean, Garrett Wilson has the talent for sure, but I mean, he knows Alan Lazard by heart at this
Garrett
point.
Wilson has
So that's the
top
one
5
upside
wide
for
receiver
sure.
potential, I think.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Once the
Especially
Rodgers
with
trade
Aaron
is
Rodgers
official,
on that team.
jeez. That's so
That
annoying.
team could be. Jets fans better be happy. Hopefully, it goes through eventually. Who else did I have? Did I have anybody else? No, I had Rashad White. So yeah, that's
I like that.
yeah. So
right.
I'm excited for him.
I'm gonna ratchet off a few names here. Tony Pollard, RB10
Yeah.
on this list.
Almost had
PFF's
him.
third highest graded
Broken
running
leg.
back. Finished the season as RB7 despite ranking outside the top 25 in touches per game. Scored more fantasy points than any other running back at 19.3 per game from week 7 through week 16 when he was consistently playing more than 53% of the snaps. When he has been a lead back, he has dominated. RB7 with Zeke, are you kidding me? It's a broken leg. It's not a torn ACL.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen from medical, like fantasy experts say he's going to be fully healed, 100% and ready to go. I'm all over Tony Pollard. Cam Akers at RB21, RB4 during the last 6 weeks of the year.
Insane last year. At the end
And
of
talk
the
about
season.
talk about volume. He played 100% of the snaps in their season finale. 22 touches, 106 yards, 5 yards per carry. I could
very good.
definitely see McVay in a rebounding year just leaning on Akers and Kupp in that offense. So at RB21, I love that value.
Yeah.
And fun one, Alexander Madison at 43. Just because when Cook is out, when he has been
he
the
could
lead
be
back,
good.
23.7 PPR points and 90 rushing yards per game when Cook has been out in the past.
Yeah.
Had his best ever 84.2 PFF rushing grade last year. 15th he ranked out of 60.
I think if any year he takes the spot, I think it's this year for sure.
He's the guy.
So I
Correct.
don't blame you at all.
A little love for my guy Romeo Doubs. He's one of the guys I drafted in the 4th round. 62, Kevin. He was 4th in receiving yards.
Might not be low enough.
4th in,
I'm just
4th
kidding.
in reception. But no. But here's the thing: you're counting on a couple things. You're counting on what he did with Rodgers.
Yeah.
Look to his 3 preseason games with Jordan Love and 3 preseason games last year as a rookie with Jordan Love at quarterback. 15 targets, 8 catches, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns in the preseason. Jordan Love was hyper targeting him. There is a connection that already exists. Love would now be going to be taking over that offense at 62. Are you kidding me?
He's left for dead at that point. That's so
Right.
disrespectful. I agree.
I love that. I have him in both my dynasty leagues, and I'm happy to do that. And then finally, here's a tight end flyer for you guys. Jelani Woods, tight end 27, finished in the top 10 in tight end scoring in 3 weeks last year, despite he only played in 12 games.
Yeah.
He is 6'7", 265, 4.61 40, 98th percentile catch radius, 8 touchdowns in his senior year at Virginia. And he had a game where he had 8 catches for 9 targets for 98 yards against the Steelers last year. He's got the volume. He had a 2 touchdown
He had
game
some
against
Definitely
the
has the
Chiefs.
talent.
Yeah,
Definitely
he had
has
some
the
big
talent.
games that.
And I think with a
Hopefully,
rookie
yeah.
quarterback, you talked about
Yep.
it, Kevin. I just think
Hopefully.
at
Lean on
tight
him.
end 27, if you're going to take a flyer on a tight end,
Or
what do you
Lamar.
know? This is also a guy I have on my dynasty league. So these are
Lamar
all guys
likes
I
tight
drafted
ends
late
too.
back. Yeah.
He could be 15. Nice, Jimmy.
Thanks.
So we got Gabe Davis at wide receiver 44, and we have Jacoby Myers at wide receiver 42. They're finishing higher than those, right?
Who was the first one you named?
Gabe Davis, 44.
44. Yeah.
Gabe Davis
What did
had
he finish this year? I think he finished at like 30.
Was he like a 3?
3.
But he's the type that who did I say earlier who could just get it all in one game, like a Mike Evans. He could
True,
just get
but
it all
I
in
think
one
but
game.
I think they're expecting the Bills to add another receiver either in the draft or still
I hope
via
they do.
trade. Yeah, and
I
I think
hope
that's
they
what
do.
that reflects. Jacoby Myers
Yeah.
though, in that
42?
Josh McDaniels Patriots
He should be the
offense, that
one.
he could
right? I mean, him and Renfro, but like you said, they're the same player. I'm just waiting for
42
Renfro to
is-
get traded.
yeah, that's
Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson are right next to each other, 32 and 33. One of those guys could
Gibson
propel
has to
up,
get
and one of
traded.
the other guys could come down.
They're gonna-
So I'm thinking
they're gonna
Brian
kill each
Robinson
other's
over
value.
anybody else, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those two need to.
if-
One of those two. I mean,
but-
I think Gibson has to get out of there because they don't like him. He's been in the doghouse for years.
They started
Yeah.
to give him more touches toward the end of the year, though. Even when Robinson came
Yeah,
back,
it's-
it was very much a split backfield.
He's talented. He's
to finish
very
the
talented.
season.
I've always liked Gibson. I was very disappointed when he fell off a cliff. I traded him for Christian
Yeah.
Watson and Pacheco straight up before the season last
running
year.
backs are tough. Running backs are tough.
They are.
The shelf life is not. I mean, Todd Gurley got drafted not too long ago. He was
That's
wide
true.
receiver, or running back one not too long ago.
That's
But that was
true.
another point I wanted to mention with regards to Akers is when McVay had a stud running back, he just fed Gurley. I could see that
Yeah,
happening with
yeah.
Akers
Ride him like
this year.
Seabiscuit.
So
Cam Akers is going. Woo! It's all over the place.
Yeah, Cam Akers has been one of the most
could-
fascinating players in fantasy to track the
Yep.
last couple of years.
Yeah, it'll be
Agreed.
interesting to see where he goes.
And he's trying to dispel the Achilles thing. You know, we talk about that occasionally. That's tough. It's a tough one to come
There's-
back from. Foreman on the
there's-
Bears will be interesting to see how he
there's
does.
Jerry
we started to
Judy
see
that.
him come up at the end of the year last year. So one of those things that just with enough time and
It
recovery,
might, yeah.
they get their explosiveness back.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and wrap our first, but it won't be our last fantasy
not be.
episode
Heck
for
yeah.
our fantasy flag planning. Kevin, I hope that we did you proud.
You
with a little
scratched my
fantasy
itch.
Talk.
That was
Good.
amazing.
We will come back to it for sure. We will definitely have a lot more draft coverage. I want to do a couple mock episodes.
Yeah.
I would like to mock live on the show.
I'd
Like we
love
go
that.
back and
Yeah.
forth. We'll do that later in the year.
Yeah.
Legit Football plans to release a mock at some point. We will analyze that mock as well, and we'll continue to break down prospects. And after the draft, let's touch on fantasy stuff again. So make sure to keep staying tuned. We're going to be messing with the times a little bit. Obviously, we were later today than we are on Fridays. I think we're going to start pushing them back a little bit later on Mondays and Fridays. But just make sure to have the little bell on if you're a YouTube subscriber so you know
Hit
when
the
we go
bell,
live.
Anthony.
Or follow us on TikTok. Yeah, do we have a bell sound, Anthony? We should. Okay, that's a fail.
Maybe
Make
they
sure, or follow us on TikTok because Kevin is going to start going live before all of these shows, so he gets the crowd pumped up. He's the hype man. He's
I'll
the
be the
glue,
hype
as he
man.
said. He's the
Totally.
culture guy.
Locker room
and
guy.
then we'll bring him over here to YouTube. So thank you to everybody listening or watching. Armand, Phoenix in the chat, super fans. Love to see you guys there. If this is your first time listening or watching, please go ahead and subscribe. Hit like. Hit the bell notification. All that fun stuff. We will be back on Friday. We're going to do NFL Easter egg moves. This was another Kevin
go.
idea. So we're going to have a little Easter theme. Easter egg moves going under the radar. Thank you to Kevin Phillip Fox, my partner in Prime, Jimmy Ray, now joining us every Monday. Check out NFL_stats on Twitter. I'm Brian McFadden. This has been the Legit Football NFL Podcast. Shout out to Anthony behind the scenes. We'll see you on Friday.